As humans, we innately like to know everything, curious by nature. But as much as we'd like to think we're geniuses, that couldn't be farther from the truth. Whether we pledge hours to try grasp these concepts, or just deny its existence, sometimes we just don't get it. Ironically enough, what we want most is something we utterly can't achieve. With the sheer volume of games produced, there's no wonder as to why some games fall through the cracks. I've been aiming to play Final Fantasy X for the last 10 to 15 years. Sometimes we just can't commit as much time to these things as we'd like. Lining our days fully with 24 hours of gameplay just isn't that viable, or at least for me. I've got videos to make. I'm AquaDreams, and just remember, we are sad, no diagnosis needed. And today we're discussing Dark Souls and 3 other games you just don't understand. Animal Crossing is a game full of hope, positivity and potential with its sandbox format. But, perhaps controversially, it's a game that I soon found became an errand as opposed to a fun adventure. Part of the game's undeniable charm are the anthropomorphic animals that occupy and roam your village. From the almost rare, aesthetically pleasing fan favourites like Bluebear, Maple and Marshall, to ones with a little less going for them in the looks department, from Rodney to Jitters. It's not a furry thing, I think? Let us hear your favourites and least favourites down below. I remember sending love letters to a bunny when I was like 10, not a furry by the way. Beneath the gameplay that bursts with warmth and light, the monotony seeps through rather quickly. Despite this charm that radiates from Animal Crossing, the way that most of the players enjoy the game is by cheating, as opposed to playing the game how Nintendo intended. Breeding flowers, weeding the town and catching the 10th sea bass in a row, all tedious tasks that can get boring and exhausting. Even with time traveling, the experience ultimately ends up becoming dull and repetitive. Redeeming this, however, is the soundtrack. It almost effortlessly manages to create an incredibly relaxed or fun atmosphere depending on the time of day. From an upbeat melody in the day to what feels like a soft, gentle lullaby in the late hours of the night. The owly music perfectly accompanies the laborious tasks done throughout the day, melding together to create a beautiful picture of quiet, idyllic forest life. It perfectly encapsulates the emotions that the developers want to impart on you, and the journey that you're taken on. Once you play, you're immediately immersed in the pride and joy you take in the things you create, who you've befriended, the bugs and fish you've caught in your museum exhibitions. When undertaking all these tasks and improving your once little sleepy village, you begin to feel wanted and part of a community. Animal Crossing can find its way into your heart without even noticing, as you develop this sense of pride within the community you've helped build and develop, forming real and emotional connections with the little animals that reside there alongside you. Yes, without a doubt, Animal Crossing is a series that is impossible to hate, but, for some, equally as impossible to enjoy to its fullest extent. Papers, Please manages to be one of the most intriguing yet boring games I've ever played. And yet I find something so captivating about it. I'm so torn. Time strikes October and you've been selected in a lottery to deal with immigration. As you are made to stamp passports, check ID cards, and avoid terrorist attacks, Arstotzka has just ended a 6-year war with Kolchia and claimed its half of Grestin. You control the flow of people entering, smugglers, brothel workers, spies and terrorists, sandwiched between workers, immigrants and travellers. You're not allowed to become complacent. Your eyes are always active. Although you predominantly check passports, IDs, and work permits further and further until someone says they're a man when they're very clearly a woman, but you need to get the x-ray machine out and waste the time out of your precious day because you need to be safe with the paperwork. Although you predominantly check passports and the rest seemingly small and easy enough, all of these tasks and the thin margins of errors can quickly build up stress and panic in the player due to the stakes involved. Is the power within your hands, or have you been stripped of your free will? Whittling away and juggling the responsibilities of making sure your family survives, dealing with hunger, sickness and warmth. Meanwhile, having to ensure you assess all the permits correctly, yet timely so you get enough money to prevent your family from suffering. In a game with 20 endings, only 3 trigger the victory sequence. Something that becomes a chore, yet you find yourself not being able to stop. Meeting a quota and ensuring you keep out of trouble is a tall order. Obviously you aim to get everyone through as quickly as possible. Still, you're burdened with trying to help people to get through, possibly when you shouldn't to get the money. Or stopping people to get in due to a moral dilemma. The unfortunate fact being that whatever you do, you cannot win. Whether you keep your family afloat or sacrifice a warning because you don't want these brothel workers to die, at some point you can get given a gun. Like, go on, there's been issues, just shoot the bastards on top of your 50 other duties. Devoid of any doubt, our Tosca always wins. Check your mirrors, flash your lights, and make sure not to crash your 20-wheeler going 100 miles per hour around this tight corner. 10-200, good neighbor. Just saw a vehicle go greasy side up.
10-200, copy.
Euro Truck is a game where you transport cargo around Europe. Now to all you people scratching your head sat there like, why the fuck would you want to drive? I do it enough in real life and it actually makes me seethe with bloodlust and anger. Admittedly, it may not be everyone's cup of tea, as it is a simulator game. Withal, I'd argue that it's one of the best. Before you yell, yes, on one hand it can be the least interesting part in driving. That is absolute units on many wheels, yet let me sit you down, buckle your seatbelt, and turn up the radio. A simple pleasure. Pinned with making more money and developing your trucking business, you take quick jobs which take you all around Europe, which slowly turns into leveling up your skills, having your own drivers, a sense of progression despite how meaningless it may be. You're greeted to the fantastic sights, the saucy scenes, and the delicious delights, rural to urban. Unknowingly, time whizzes by at 60 miles per hour, as you haul units down the motorways with your eyes on the road and your head somewhere else. If Euro Truck is a succubus, then my attention is primed and ready. Realistic in nature, you genuinely feel like a truck driver, and while yes, admittedly it can be a burden, it's just so enthralling. Engaging and alienating the subtle sense of serenity as sounds of the radio go straight to the secluded state of your mind. Or to simplify that, truck game fun when brain go off and radio go up in it. Interestingly, Euro Truck makes me want a steering wheel, and I've never cared for driving games. I don't understand how. Hearing the low rumble of the engines as you look upon the environments that pass you by, all contributes to an experience that effortlessly manages to take you out of your own head. In the best way, each journey is an entirely mind-numbing trip. Dark Souls is a polarizing tyrant, capitalizing on the player's primal instinct of slamming your face into a wall until it gets less painful or you die of a brain hemorrhage. Using a quote from Yahtzee and a visual from The Simpsons, you are the proverbial Sideshow Bob, bumbling into a shed of rakes. Rapidly entering the world of giants equipped with a pitiful weapon and lousy armor, you're greeted with relentless enemies whom you need to out-battle, methodically countering their movement, blocking with a shield, rolling out the way, or stabbing them in the back. It takes traditional video game combat, strips it back, and forces you to adapt. Although released in a time where games continued to get easier, Dark Souls came out and pushed everyone against a wall and said, "Don't mess with me, I'll break your neck." The realization truly dawns upon you when waltzing into the world of giants, and you soon discover that you do not impress them much, and that perhaps Dark Souls is a bigger beast to slay than once thought. Masochistically punishing themselves for a reward that they might not even get, gamers proceed to fiercely rise to the challenge. Whether the breathtaking soundtrack heightens the player's senses or bleeds into the furious focus where one calamitous combat mistake could render the player lifeless. A viperous shot to the player's dwindling psyche. Perpetually unforgiving, the AI is cold-blooded in its dealings with the player. A momentary oversight acts as a setback. A monster will have no qualms guarding those souls you left behind. Bereavement in this universe is a virtue. Vast lore is weaved into this world, but as an outsider, this doesn't matter. Just enjoy the momentary spoils of vitality. Nonetheless, it can be difficult to love a franchise with such a gatekeeping fanbase. Is it so bad to enjoy something without studying it excessively? Part of the fun is succumbing to your death. Dark Souls drips with the atmosphere oozing this somber, mellow feel. Life is limited and you are endlessly a victim till you claw up, slowly building power. Out of the ashes you emerge as a noble challenger. Attacks no longer feel hollow. Hellish challenges turn into frustrating yet doable victories, as you realize enemies are no longer as threatening as they used to be. You're on the other side now, and you'll yearn for your former lack of ability. It's Freud's conditioning in its purest form. Feeding players' sense of difficulty and ego, I alone spent hours trying to bulldoze the learning curve in order to brandish Dark Souls as a game I understand. But I just couldn't do it. Mentally, I was drained. Demanding it may be, but if you can brace the what feels to be a feckless learning curve, I would definitely recommend so you can be one of those who understand the feeling of starting so small and slowly becoming a threat. Thinking I needed a refresh, I recently booted up the game, Dark Souls 3 by the way, and killed the tutorial boss first time, to my satisfaction and surprise. Once my guard was lowered, however, I went on to kill more, with a chip on my shoulder, as I proceeded to get stomped back into the hole I crawled out of. Often tenderizing the foes you once thought to be scary proceeds to be oh so cathartic. I got my tension with the Zweihander. We've been sad. No diagnosis needed. And remember, just because we're sad doesn't mean we want tears. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe and press that notification bell to make sure you're first to see new episodes. Make sure to check out our other videos whilst you wait for the next video. And if you're feeling generous and want to see more, support us on Patreon, where you get access to our Discord server, bloopers, and have your name shouted out or written in the credits. Thanks for watching and see you next time.